Um, I'm here with Saul from Idealist. We'll introduce ourselves in just a second, but we're going to get started here. Heart and Wallet, fueling humanitarian efforts with smart fundraising. Thank you for joining again. So I'm going to walk you through a bit of our agenda today. We're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk about what is smart fundraising, at least for the purposes of this webinar in this time together we have. The challenges for humanitarian nonprofits and the operational impact, the challenges, the difficulties that exist there internally often, common project questions when we're looking at implementing new technologies, making big changes within an organization. We'll go over some process hacks that are baked into the Idealist way, which we'll learn more about. We'll talk about, is it worth the effort? It's a lot of effort. It can take a lot of work, but is it worth it? We'll explain why it is. And then we'll talk about the technology from our side and how it can help enable that. We'll open it up for Q&A after. So Saul, over to you. I want you to introduce yourself. If you may introduce yourself to these fine people.
Hey everybody, my name is Saul Belisle. I'm the lead project management specialist at Idealist Consulting, coming to you live today from Boise, Idaho, where if I'm not working, you'll probably find me outside hiking, camping, or just spending time in nature with my family. Excited to be here with you all today and looking forward to a good session.
So may I share with everybody this is your first webinar, and if they can give you a round of applause in the chat for diving in bravely.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Absolutely. We're going to crush it. A round of applause for Saul here. Myself, my name is Salvatore Salpietro. I'm the Chief Community Officer at Fundraise Up. Real quick over there on my photo, you see text SAL to 83100. I'm going to get you my LinkedIn link. We're going to have a link in there to a free certification program around modern digital fundraising, some report downloads, and it's just a way for us to stay connected. So shoot a text to 83100 with SAL. I'm super passionate about optimizing generosity and helping close the gap that the technology in the nonprofit space has compared to the rest of the really, for-profit world. There's a gap there. It's a tangible gap. I worked in e-commerce, digital fundraising, nonprofit tech side. I speak at a lot of conferences. I'm coming to you direct from not Boise, Idaho, but Philadelphia, where I just landed about an hour ago. And I'm here for the cheesesteaks and the fundraising effectiveness project, which I'll be participating in later today. Tell you a little bit about Fundraise Up and Idealist, the two organizations here sharing this information with you. Fundraise Up, we're a platform that's really a next generation digital giving platform. Over 3,000 nonprofits are using our platform of all sizes, small and massive, very small regional ones to big international NGOs. And we're using AI to create a personalized donor journey. We're doing that with no contract, no costs, and all the integrations that will make your life easier. Saul, can you tell us a little bit about Idealist?
Of course. Yeah. Idealist Consulting was founded in 2006 by returning Peace Corps volunteer Rob Jordan. We're one of the first 200 certified B corporations in America. And since our launch, we've been dedicated to helping nonprofits further their impact with technology. So we are your partner in all things Salesforce, marketing, change management, data, and managed services.
Epic. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about what smart fundraising is. So for the purposes of our conversation today, smart fundraising is a combination of elevated process and innovative technology. All right. So we often see that a lot of misguided internal beliefs, biases, fear, risk aversion, and other kind of negative factors, really that sometimes are quite unique to the nonprofit space, can cause change paralysis. And this might be just, we don't want to take a chance on something new, or we don't have time for another thing to look at and evaluate. But to get there to smart fundraising, we need to get change to happen in those things. So we're going to talk through how that can happen, why it should, and really why it must. If we're going to tackle the world's problems, we need to close the gap. And that's going to start with process. So walk us through some of the things here that can help nonprofits make this change easier.
Awesome. Thanks, Sal. As a project manager, I spend a lot of time thinking about process because if I can make a project 1% easier or 1% more seamless for my clients, it seems to pay dividends not only throughout the entire project, but into the post go live solution. And so when I think about the difference, taking a process to be an enhanced process, I think it starts with a fundamental understanding of the problems that our clients are facing, and then how are we acting with intention to try and resolve or even mitigate those problems a little bit. So before I talk about process, I want to just talk real briefly about the problems that we're hearing from our clients, from our friends, from our network in the humanitarian and nonprofit space. So on the next slide, we'll talk about, if I could summarize what we're hearing to like one sentence, it's that time and time again, we're hearing organizations are being asked to do more with less. We're hearing from our network that NGOs and nonprofits, they feel stuck with outdated systems and disjointed processes. And especially as it relates to their online giving platforms, they know there's a gap there, that their donors are expecting more seamless ways of giving. And they understand that they could be doing better in that space. Additionally, we're hearing from our friends and network that because these systems are outdated, they feel like the data is fragmented. So when it comes time to gather the data to tell a compelling story, to give a call to action, it's difficult and it's inefficient. And so there's definitely an overarching sense that we could be doing things better. But lastly, we're also often hearing that it's hard to balance the long-term strategic planning of like, what would a project look like? How do I plan out 2025 and 2026 when I'm trying to support my teams today? We have daily operations that we're working through right now. And it's really hard to find the sweet spot of supporting my team so they feel supported to do their best work, but also planning ahead so that I can work and stay ahead of the curve for what my donors are expecting. So we know that those challenges make it harder for you to drive meaningful impact at a time that we need your impact more than ever. So that's kind of the problems that we're hearing in this space. And if any one of those maybe resonated with you just a little bit, you're probably thinking one of two questions. What we hear next is often a version of one or two questions. And on the next slide, Sal, those questions are,
two things you said, Saul, were interesting. You said, do more with less, which for me means you have to innovate. That's what technology is. Technology in its root is do more with less, right? And then you talked about data fragmentation, and that takes my brain directly to integrations. You got to have stuff that talks to each other. So I think that's, for me, the two things that you mentioned there that like jumped right out.
Hey, Sal and Paul, sorry to break it up for just 1 second. We are just getting some comments in the chat that the display isn't viewing correctly for everyone to be able to see the slides full screen. So I'm just wondering if under the display menu, you can possibly expand the full screen. If not, everyone, I will drop the slides so you can follow along in the chat, but I think this might resolve it.
I don't know if there's a way for me to make that bigger. I don't think there's a way to make that bigger, Jesse.
Okay, no worries. Everyone, I will just drop a version of the slides in the chat so that way for the text, if you want to read along while they're chatting, you'll have like a better visual reference. Give me 1 second, everyone. Oh, everyone said it's bigger. It's bigger now. Okay, great. Rick,
cool.
Okay, that's resolved. Okay, awesome.
Is it still good? Because I was flipping between two tabs. It's still okay? It's all right?
Okay, some people are saying it is, some people are saying it isn't. So I will drop the slides regardless so that we have a good reference point and let everyone get back to it. All right, I will be in the chat there.
All right, cool. All right, so let's pick it up. Questions that you're hearing.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are punking me on my first webinar, but that's okay. We're just going to keep on rolling. All right, so what we're hearing next after we talk about those problems is often one of like two questions. The first one is, I know I have a gap and I know I'm ready to do a new project, but what would that even look like? Maybe you've never done a large scale tech implementation, or maybe you have, but not in a while. So you're thinking like, what would this look and feel like to my team? Or possibly if your pain point is more specific to the donation management question, we're often hearing like, how do I know what I'm looking for? How do I identify the right solution for an improved donation platform? So again, bringing it back to the content of this webinar, we're going to talk about those two things for the rest of our time today, the process and the technology. So at Idealist Consulting, our project management methodology, we call this the Idealist way. It's something that we've been working on since our launch 2 decades ago. And after over 2,000 successful projects, we feel like we have something that's really tailored to the nonprofit journey. So with my time today, I'm going to talk through at a high level what a project looks and feels like through the Idealist way. I'm going to keep it pretty high level so you can get a sense and hopefully take some of the scariness, the daunting feeling of what a project might look like. If you are familiar with software implementation projects, I'm also going to try and call out little success indicators that I think are important to keep in mind, whether you've done 1 project or 10 projects. So that's my goal for today. And this graphic here that you're seeing kind of represents a project the Idealist way. We're going to spend a few minutes here just kind of walking through this. And the first step, every project starts in a planning phase. I like to kind of think of this as pre-contract. There's definitely a understanding that there's a opportunity for doing better. There's a pain point or a problem. And often at this stage, you're thinking about budgets, timeline, where does this fall in my priorities? And you might be thinking about like, what team members could I allocate to a project? So no matter what, every project starts in a planning phase. After you sign a contract and you move into and you get assigned a services team at Idealist, you move into the discovery stage. Discovery for us is a super critical stage. It's where we take an intentional time to slow down and really get to know your mission and your values before we touch the technology. So during this time, we're talking to you, and this might be over several weeks. It's several different sessions where we're talking about your people, your personas, who's going to be impacted by the system. What are your goals for this solution? What are your pain points? What are we trying to solve for? And we think that this is really critical to get right up front for better long-term success and quality. So during this time, we're doing demos, we're doing teach-backs, we're talking about your processes and your pain points. And one thing I'll just mention here in discovery as kind of like a takeaway, I would just be cautious of anybody who wants to rush too quickly into building the technology, because there's a lot of really great providers that are really great with technology, but I can tell you there's nothing more frustrating than spending a lot of time and a lot of money to get a shiny new tech stack that doesn't actually solve the problems that you had at the beginning. So for Idealist, this time is making sure that we are fully aligned on where your pain points lie and where your values and mission lie before we move forward. So that's really the discovery stage.
You're really loading up a lot of discovery and learning, identifying the problem at the outset, kind of really cataloging that so that you have a clearer path forward. Is that right?
Absolutely. We want to go slow to go fast. And so this is a time to slow down and get on the same page before we start building.
Otherwise, you're making more work for yourself later.
Yes, the chance that you'll have to redo something later is exponentially more if you go too fast through discovery.
Right.
So at the output of discovery, when that stage is done, what we have is a list of requirements to build. Sometimes we call these user stories. And we take all of those user stories and move them into stage 3, the build stage. It's represented in this graphic by the circle because this is where we shift to agile methodology, which is just a fancy way of saying we take all of these requirements we're going to build and divide them up into 4-week sprints or time boxes. Each of those sprints follows the same iterative cycle of build, test, refine, build, test, refine. And there's 2 big benefits of agile that I just want to mention briefly as you consider the projects that you might undertake. The first benefits of agile is the built-in flexibility, because we understand especially the longer the project, the more likely it is that things are going to come up, especially in the nonprofit and humanitarian spaces. You need to be able to adapt quickly to a shifting crisis or an opportunity, or reallocate team members to a different area for a few weeks. And sprints give us that flexibility to move things from sprint 7 to sprint 2, or from sprint 1 to sprint 5. And so we're ready to adapt and adjust with you to keep the momentum going while also being adapted to your unique situation. The other neat thing about sprints that I think is a good takeaway is the built-in change management that accompanies it. So because of this iterative cycle of testing and refinement, your project team will be in the solution, testing and giving feedback for weeks and months before the go live. So they're a part of the process in the system, learning the UI, learning the click path, learning the processes, and giving feedback so that when you go live, that team has essentially become your internal change champions. And they will naturally be more responsive and adaptive to encourage the success of the platform, get people on board, because they had an active role in contributing to the quality. They're bought into the success and will help the rest of your team when it's time to go live to also get bought into the success.
So and that so is that the validate stage? Are we when we're pulling in other team members?
No, this is still in the build stage. At every single sprint and throughout the sprints, we're asking for feedback from your team and testing and contributing to that quality. So this happens early and often, and that is a huge impact on the change curve that your team goes through. The earlier you get them in the system and playing with it, the easier it is to go live.
Got it.
But at the end of our build stage, when we finish that last sprint, we take all of that work and we move it into stage 4, the validate and test phase. This is another opportunity to check the quality and test. Often this stage is characterized by end-to-end testing. So not just testing individual components, but we're zooming out and testing the whole process, the whole life cycle. And it's one last chance to make sure that we're all on the same page before we go live. After this stage, when both teams are comfortable and confident, then we're just on to the downhill path of move and launch. We're talking about preparing your deployment package, your deployment timeline, communication plans, training and onboarding, user license provisioning, and everything that we need to make sure that you're set up for success for that day 1 go live. So in summary, that's basically what a project looks like from start to finish when you're working with Idealist. And
so how much would you say is in the plan? And if you had to say, like, okay, we have 6 stages here, how much of that is spent in the first 2 stages of the whole time for a project?
Ooh, that is a good question. The largest stage of any project is typically the build and map stage, when we're actually building and configuring the solution. But discovery and planning could easily be 30%.
Okay.
And it depends on the complexity of the project and what we're trying to accomplish, of course.
So that just underscores the need to really have a good understanding of what problem you're solving, what the solutions you've targeted are. And I think in that discovery, it's also, looking for the experiences from others that have used that technology. Does it integrate well? Does it have open APIs? Is it going to achieve what we're looking to achieve here? That's critical for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to mention here on this slide, we talked at the beginning about how do we do more with less? And I think one key factor is remembering that you're not alone in this space. The more that you can build capacity through strong partnerships, the level at which you can put some trust into another organization to help take something off of your plate so that you can focus on your mission and your values, we're better together. And so a couple of areas I just want to highlight that we can do this. If you're in the planning stage and you're thinking about, I have a problem, or I think there's an opportunity for a better platform, you can contact Idealist for a free Pathfinder assessment. We can get access to your system, look at your data, your processes, and give you a recommendation, whether that's for a optimization or a whole new platform. That's definitely something that we can do to help take some of the stress off of your life so you can get back to what you do best. Yeah, during a project, of course, you can definitely lean on us for active project management support, as well as some of the best technology experts in the business. So you can focus on assessing the quality, making sure we're aligned with your values and your mission, and contributing to the project in other ways. And then lastly, at the end of a project, if you're thinking that you might need ongoing support, whether it's like just training or you want some augmented admin support or just new enhancements, you can also lean on us for managed services support as well, which is more of a lower touch contract support where we just get out of your way and let you do your best work while we take care of the background stuff. So all that to say, doing more with less doesn't have to mean you have to do it all yourself. You can lean on others to take something off of your plate. And we'd love to work with you.
And so, is it fair to say, for those that are attending right now and listening, the Pathfinder assessment will give them a takeaway, something they can use? They should contact Idealist for the Pathfinder assessment, even if they're not ready right now to embark on a project. At least it gives them something that's a path forward. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the slide deck, we have a QR code that links you to that Pathfinder assessment. If you're interested, at the end of it, we'll give you some recommendations for where we think there's areas to like optimize your system or a path forward. You could possibly expect to receive like a roadmap or a generic project plan of what that project might look like for your specific situation. So it's really us trying to help you make the best like path forward as you're thinking about what does 2025 entail, what does 2026 entail. We'd love to help you kind of understand better your system and where you can grow.
That's a huge value for the nonprofits and organizations here. I mean, the new year started, we all got 100 projects on our plate. We might not all be ready this moment to dive in, but at least getting the Pathfinder assessment can really help, and it doesn't weigh on the organization as far as from a budget and cost perspective at the outset there.
All right, and this is going to be my last slide before I pass it back to Sal, but I wanted to end on a couple key takeaways that whether you decide to do a project with Idealist or you're going to do it in-house or with another implementation partner, these are three things I think would do you well to just consider and internally talk about and make sure you have a plan for these. And these are three things that are major indicators of success from my perspective. And so it's just what I would like to end on as we talk about how do we enhance process. The first one is, do you have a plan, an intentional plan to find mission and values alignment? Are you working with somebody who's going to focus on the overall end result or short-term technology fixes? Are you working with somebody that has an awareness of the landscape that you are currently navigating? So that might look different to different situations, but it should not be glossed over and assumed that the mission and values alignment will naturally align over time. The level to which you can put your trust in another partner to take something off of your plate helps you do more with less. The second thing is, do you have a plan to be flexible through rapidly changing priorities and situations? Now, I want to mention that Agile methodology is certainly not unique to Idealist Consulting. It's often done in software implementations, but what's unique to Idealist is our understanding of your situation and what you're going through. So on a long project, if you come to us and say, hey, this situation came up today and I need to take these 3 team members off the project for 4 weeks, I'm so sorry. That happens. It happens all the time. And when you're with us, you're not going to be guilted. You're not going to be met with shame. You're met with an immediate understanding and an empathy because we've seen this before and we can make those adjustments on the fly. Agile methodology is just a tool to help us support your situation the best. And so make sure that you have a plan. The longer the project, the more likely it is that things are going to come up. What is your plan when that happens? And the last thing, the one I'll end on, is change management. I didn't mention this before, but one of the coolest things about the Idealist Way is Story Navigator. This is our proprietary app that we use for project management. It gets installed in your production Salesforce org, and we use it to track your user stories, sprints, test scripts, your feedback, all of the design notes. And so this project plan and documentation over the project becomes this living, growing repository of project knowledge. So because it lives in your production org, even after the project completes, a year later, you might be doing an onboarding or you're training a new admin, or maybe you're just wondering like, why did we make that decision? You can go back to Story Navigator and you can find the record of that conversation, the design notes, and understanding of the decisions that went into that process. And when you combine that with the early and often hands-on testing I talked about on the other slide, what you have is just better chances of success for the change management. As people are going through their own individual change curve, as well as an organization, you're adapting to a new normal with new processes, new technology. Having consistent and clear documented project notes in Story Navigator and having hands-on testing and feedback does wonders for change management. If you're not using those tools, that's fine, but just make sure that you have a plan so that you can support your team, support your staff when it's time to change, because change is hard. And if you can build that into the project, it just takes one less thing off of your plate to think about instead of when you go live and realize that people are dealing with change their own way and they're not feeling guided. So that's it. That's where I'll wrap up here. Mission and values, staying flexible through sprints, and have a plan for change management, and your chances of success on a project just keep going way up.
Story Navigator sounds like it was purpose built for nonprofits. I don't know if it was, but I can certainly see how that is a massive value add for organizations where their core competencies are more related to the mission than it is maybe agile project management, right? Because that's not everybody's expertise. And with the thousands of these navigators that you guys have executed, it gives you a historical expertise that you can refer back to and keep refining and get better.
Yeah, I could do a whole nother webinar on Story Navigator. Many of our clients continue to use it even after a project ends for routine like admin support cases or feature enhancements. Story Navigator is incredible.
This guy, first webinar talking about his next webinar already. I love it. Not even halfway through. Awesome. Cool. All right. So we have that to talk about. We have everything you shared with us, Saul, about how we're going to plan our project better, understand the problem we're solving, do a big deep dive documentation up front, and then roll out with care and attention. But obviously, like you said, that takes a lot of people, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And I want to talk a little bit about why is it worth the effort. And also, because we're dealing with humanitarian organizations here, there's two key things that I'm going to touch on in a bit. Speed to deploying campaigns for urgent issues and things that might come up. And then also unrestricted funds. So there's ways we can address increasing and improving both of those. So first, change is hard. We know that. It's hard. Nobody likes change. But it's a lot easier if you focus on the wins, right? And that kind of goes for really anything, right? But number one here, we're going to have an improved donor experience. When we do all of this work that Saul's talking about, what does that mean? We're going to have a longer lifetime value with our donors because we're going to have a better experience for them. Trust in our organization is going to increase. We know that's always top of mind for nonprofits. How do we get the donors to trust us? We're going to have an improved perception because our donors are going to see our organization as the organization seeing them, right? Do you see me? Do you understand me? The donor experience is how you communicate that. And you're going to have a level of personalization baked into that. You'll get more revenue by modernizing your fundraising tools and your digital fundraising platforms. You're going to get better conversion rates, higher return on ad spend and ROI. And I have a session I do at conferences, that really just hones in only on that, where all the work you do, system implementations, campaign building, image selection, copywriting, target lists for everything. All of that is so much work and cost. And really, when we're talking about digital fundraising, it's that donation form component, if that converts or not, is going to determine your ROI. It's going to increase the ROI on everything prior if that works as well as it could. It's the single point of failure, really, in our campaigns and determining our returns. We're going to get more unrestricted funds. We're going to get more recurring revenue. And then we're also going to reduce it. We're going to get more revenue, but we're going to reduce costs as well. We're going to offload compliances, offload innovation. We're going to improve system efficiencies through integrations and data connectivity. And we're going to eliminate a lot of manual work. And all of that stuff really just means more of what we are all setting out to do. More smiles, more aid, more help, more of all of this, more generosity and more assistance to those that need it, which for me is the daily driver. We can get lost in, conversion rates and agile methodologies and documentation and all that, but all that leads to really one person at the end of the line that's going to benefit with a care box from International Rescue Committee or a bag of rice from the World Food Program. It's all going to result in more of that. So if you're thinking about moving forward, you can really be confident. There's a movement starting around this. Fundraise Up and Idealist, we've worked together on a number of projects from IRC, World Food Program, IDE, United Way, so many others. But nonprofits really in this movement are modernizing and integrating more today than ever as a tech ecosystem. The dynamics are shifting, whereas some of the technology you might be using has a closed API or doesn't integrate well with other things, or you need a lot of middleware and a lot of work to make it work together. That's kind of like so yesterday now. And what is today and future is, let's share all the data. Why shouldn't and couldn't everything connect and allow us to analyze our results and our efforts at scale? We already talked about Fundraise Up and Idealist and how we've partnered on process and technology many times. And really, this movement is happening with major national and international organizations, but also much smaller regional ones. I'm going to go through a couple case studies here. We're going to flick through these pretty quickly. I want to make sure we have time for some Q&A at the end here. But what does it mean? So is it worth it? What's all this work that we're doing? So many team members, methodologies, Idealist Way, Agile, technology, reviews, comparisons, etc. Northwest Harvest saved essentially an entire employee's worth of time over a year. 624 hours a year saved on manual admin tasks that they were having to do manually through imports, exports, data cleaning, etc. Not to mention the boost in their numbers on recurring and their community fundraising. International Justice Mission in the UK, massive lift here. Monthly givers 140% up. 91% of donors in total donations increase in a single year. So it's double the donations that are coming through for the organization. That also means doubling the number of relationships and lifetime values that you're starting with donors. Ether Relief. This one jumped out to me specifically, particularly the middle box there. A 20% increase in unrestricted funds for humanitarian aid organizations. We know that a lot of these things are related to disasters and are tagged, and they're allocated to a certain designation, a certain fund, and it really makes it difficult if you overfund it or if you need funds for something else. By using technology that is nudging donors in different directions or giving them opportunities without friction to provide unrestricted funds, we're getting increases there. 31% lift in new donors in the first 12 months and a 20% almost increase, 19% in the average gift size. MAP International. We know monthly donors are highly coveted and they're critical for the for the operating budgets of a nonprofit. And MAP International saw 4x growth in new donor new monthly donor acquisition in the first 3 months. Okay. And that also resulted in overall donation revenue and increase in average gift sizes. Canadian Red Cross, I told you about, time to launching a campaign. These numbers here are great, 10% average size, lift in the average gift size, 64% more revenue overall by easing the donation experience and improving that donor experience, and overall 48% more donations. So that's all good, right? But the key thing for me that came from speaking with them recently when they came to visit us, they said it used to take us almost 2 days to launch a new campaign when there was a disaster. And that meant IT team, data team, web team, etc., to spin up a new campaign. Now they're down to about 90 minutes. 90 minutes. That means disaster happens, generosity happens within less than 2 hours, right? And this is really, massively impactful for what we're all setting out to do. Not only the internal team, right? Because the donor, we have to take care of the donor, but we got to take care of our teams. We're all working hard at nonprofits, and we're all, stretched on resources. And if we can reduce the amount of anxiety that a 2-day spin up for a campaign causes and bring that down to 90 minutes, what a gift really to everyone that's involved, from the team internally all the way down to the beneficiary of our mission. So how is this happening? Now I'm going to explain how Fundraise Up does it. Your platform might do it. Your platform may give you some pathway to do it, but Fundraise Up gives a way to have all of that really out of the box. And these are examples of things you can do and implement through Fundraise Up, or any other ways if you have the ability. So a personalized donor experience through AI. What's AI doing? Well, it's going to pre-select the language that maybe that campaign is shown in, or the currency. We're going to choose ask amounts based on correlative predictive data for that donor. Quick example is, we see a donor in New York might be able to give more than a donor that's in Nebraska. So let's adjust the ask rate to be more relevant to that donor, instead of our, really doubling down on our 25, 50, 100, 250, 500, 1,000 numbers on the form. Let those be dynamic and relevant to the donor, so that we're not leaving anything on the table, but we're also not alienating donors that might only have $10, or a $15 donation is acceptable in the region where they live due to adjusted income levels and so on. So let AI figure that out for us and personalize that experience. It's also a way to show donors you're seeing them. The AI is also doing things like nudging to sustained giving, using it for recurring retention tools, and providing donors with a self-service donor portal. All of that not only empowering the donor and giving them more trust in your organization by allowing them to take care of their giving on their own and get their receipts and manage their regular and their recurring giving with you, but it's also reducing, again, work, stress, and anxiety on your donor care and donor support teams. The donors doing it themselves, and we see about 30% of donors will self-serve. Imagine if your donor care teams had 30% less work to do with some of those mundane tasks, like, can I get a receipt or update my credit card? That's a lot of time saved. That's exactly what Saul was talking about with do more with less, right? Super big for me, I love this, is modern and regional payment methods. If your donation form doesn't have Apple Pay and Google Pay, and other methods that might be regional, Ideal in the Netherlands, etc., like, you're just losing donors. There is a solid, strong donor base that will give with Apple Pay when they get your email on their phone while they're walking their dog, or they're at the park with their kid, and they would give if they had Apple Pay, but I clicked the link in the email and they only take credit card and I left my wallet at home, right? It's all that impulse giving that we want to capitalize on, because the for-profit world does it, right? I can buy anything, anywhere, walking on my phone, and I can use Apple Pay, and that's the cue we want to take. We want to listen to that, and we want to take that as an inspiration and level up the donor experience to what they're expecting everywhere else. And this can increase your conversion rates up to 2x. So we're going to get double the number of donors through there, and we're going to make it an experience that's going to resonate with them. And as we talked about, it's a quick, no-code campaign spin-up, minutes, not hours, with complete integration and data transparency, meaning all your data is there, it's all exportable, it's all connectable, all that stuff. And I know, especially for humanitarian organizations, these things are especially key: compliance, scalability. Well, that sounds good, but you guys, can you handle 300 donations that come in, every minute? We can handle 200 donations per second, right? So anything over that, we're going to process that in a rapid queue as well. So it's built for scaling in peak moments. All the integrations, certified Salesforce, HubSpot, native real-time integrations with Dynamics, Virtuous, Every Action, Donor Perfect, Blueprint, et cetera, et cetera. But then for your compliance teams, for your IT teams, for your in-house legal teams, all the alphabet soup is there. SOC 2, Type 2, PCI Level 1, ISO, GDPR, WCAG, PIP. The alphabet soup never ends on that. So that is a quick high level of how we want to look at improving our process, taking some tips that Saul shared of, let's spend more time planning and identifying the problem we're solving, identify the technologies we want to implement that are going to get us there, which technologies will, and do have proven track records to accomplish the goal we're setting out to do: integrate data, increase results, improve ROI, et cetera. And the technology part on our side is going to help us level up. So making those smart decisions at the beginning, implementing all the way through, the benefits that come after that really are endless. And now we're going to talk about a little bit about next steps. So that's a teaser. The Idealist team is happy to do the Pathfinder assessment with you at no cost. Fundraise Up is happy to walk through our platform and do a personal one-on-one deep dive with you, and show you kind of the functionality and how it might be able to help your organization, like it has UNICEF, World Food Program, et cetera. And I think there's going to be some links in the chat shortly for the Pathfinder assessment, and for the if you want to consult with Fundraise Up and talk about the solution that we have that's gotten great results for others. You can also text me, text SAL to 83100, and we can connect on LinkedIn, and we can keep sharing and learning from each other. And with that, we'll come to the end here, and we have about 10-15 minutes, I think, Jesse, for some Q&A.
That's right, Sal. You have 14 minutes altogether. We can head into some questions. There's a couple in the chat that we can pull up. We'll just dive through. Anyone who's got questions? Oh, I see a couple more coming in here as well.
I'm looking in the questions tab here, so I'm going to kind of run through some of these. Says, will Fundraise Up integrate with Benevity? More than half of donations come through Benevity. A direct integration through Benevity is not there. That's usually, it's going to be some sort of corporate matching and so on. But we do have a native integration with Double the Donation, which is processing a lot of that. In fact, we have some exclusive functionality in corporate matching that's going to, in real time, check if a gift is eligible for matching and ask them to increase their gift to get matched if it isn't. So that's something that we might want to talk about. But a lot of our organizations are using Benevity. I'm sure Saul has worked and seen Benevity in the tech stacks there before, so we can definitely find a solution for that. You wouldn't be the first one.
Yeah, we've definitely worked with Benevity for both the Nonprofit Success Pack as well as the new Nonprofit Cloud. So we can definitely get in touch about that as well.
All right. Now, I'm not even reading these questions before I get to them. I'm off the cuff fully here. So here we have a question from Robert. If a donor finds they had an amount deducted from their account and no longer wish to cancel, can we refund the last donation through Stripe? Or does Fundraise Up have an API that this can be done through the dashboard? Yes, yes, and yes. You can refund it through Stripe, and our platform will pick it up and reflect it. You can do it through an API, or you can do it through our dashboard, or the donor can do it in their own donor portal. So that's another way there. So Robert, yes, we can take care of that. Regina, okay, I saw that. That was already answered. And also I saw your message on LinkedIn. I'll get back to you later today. Let's see here. What else do we have? This is an interesting question that comes up quite a bit about South Africa. Precious, unfortunately, Stripe is required to use the platform, and currently South Africa and the financial infrastructure there does not allow Stripe to function there. So, hey, if you're up for lobbying your local politicians to allow Stripe into the country, we'd love to work with that territory. Let's see here. Looking through, I think we've got to most of them, unless I'm not. Let's see here. Am I missing any questions here? Are there any in the other main chat, Jesse, that you think that I'm in the questions tab?
Yeah, Diane's just asking if, I think this question is for both of you, to work with very small nonprofits whose scope is regional, 2 countries, just starting out in their fundraising efforts.
From our side, I mean, we work with small 2-person, 1-person cat sanctuaries all the way up to the Canadian Red Cross. So yes, we've got that covered, and we're working in a number of countries. Any country that you see on Stripe's website would be one that we could support. But Saul, what about on your side?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're very used to customizing the level of support to what you need. I mentioned managed services as an option. That can be a good tool for smaller organizations who just want maybe some a lower touch point, somebody who can help with some enhancements or some efficiencies, but doesn't need an entire project team. Maybe you don't need a full project manager and an architect, but you could use some help with the configuration. This is more specific to Salesforce, but yes, we would absolutely work with all size of organizations.
Awesome. I see a couple more here in the chat. Robert, no worries. It doesn't have to be your last question. It can be your not last question. That's fine too. Are there particular CRMs that customers often link up with Fundraise Up? We're looking at Salesforce and others. Choosing your CRM is obviously a critical thing. I'm sure the Idealist team can help you with that selection process, but Fundraise Up works with, again, CRMs that are built for smaller nonprofits like Neon, Bloomerang, etc. Mid-sized nonprofits like Virtuous and so on, Donor Perfect, and also those big industrial CRMs like Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce particularly. We just recently, a few months ago, got our full 3 Salesforce integrations certified by Salesforce. So those are plug and play, pretty straightforward, Robert, and we haven't found a situation where we're not getting our data into a CRM yet. So let's see here. Roberto Ponce de Leon asking, are we planning to add memberships and ticket sales? That's a tough one. Possibly we'll try to address it in some way, but really we try to stay super hyper focused on doing the one thing and doing it well. What we're trying to avoid is something that commonly plagues this space particularly, which is an all-in-one tool that tries to do 10 things, but can only do them at a mediocre level or a middle level or a satisfactory level, not excelling at any one of them. So we're really working to excel at giving and generosity through that, whereas ticket sales can then lead to tables and chicken or fish and all that kind of stuff that really merits a company of its own to handle that. But we have some nonprofits using our platform to do that in different ways, but definitely reach out to us and talk to us and we'll guide you through that. We have a lot of partners that do fantastic software in memberships and ticket sales that we connect with, and we all play nicely together. So we're really doubling down on do your thing, do it well, and let's all be friends. That's kind of the mindset there. And Roberto chimes in, membership is not so complicated, or is it? Not so much. We can do that with Salesforce integrations, and it can go into a workflow and be targeted as a membership if it has a certain fund code, etc. If you look at the 19th fundraisenews.org. They're using our platform for membership. TED Talks, if you go to the TED Talks website, you can become a member there. We're the platform behind TED Talks. So yes, our platform is being used for memberships. It depends on how complicated that membership is. Does it require a t-shirt size? Does it require you sending them a kit and so on? But even the Surfrider Foundation, you can become a member there of that, which I'm a proud member of the Surfrider Foundation in that capacity. Let's see here. Any other things here? I don't see anything in the chat on the side. Anything in the main chat we should be looking at, Jesse, that you've seen? Let's see.
Lots of compliments. Judy thinks you guys are awesome, but otherwise, I think everyone's pushed their questions over into the question base, except for, oh, we have one last one. Judy's just wondering, what about if we don't use any CRMs? What might her options be?
I got one idea, so I'll stew on it for a second if you got that. But one idea, Judy, is you can connect at least our platform using Zapier to, say, a Google Sheet. And you can have any donation go in real time to a Google Sheet where you can also enter other gifts that come through other channels that may not be digital. You say HubSpot's way out of reach. Keep in mind they do have HubSpot.com/nonprofits, 40% off any of their software. Not too many people know about that, but that makes it way more accessible. But that is one thing to keep in mind there as well. Latha, you're asking here also about, let's see here, I'm going to read it out. How do you collate the Benevity data along with online digital donations in Fundraise Up? So all donation data is there in Fundraise Up platform. So all the data we want to be in the CRM, Fundraise Up is going to be mostly a push. So anything that comes into Fundraise Up, we're going to push down, and we will link that gift to corporate through our Double the Donation integration, which also connects into Benevity, or through the employer there. I'm not a solution engineer on our side, but I know we have a rock star team of solution engineers that can help that data get all connected up. Again, it wouldn't be the first case. I just don't know the technicals of how that data gets connected, but I know it is getting connected. What else we got? Anything else?
I think you've got them all.
I see Maida in here, Maida Ryder. Hi, Maida. I remember Maida, early days. We saw that. We saw Diane's question here. Fantastic. Again, everybody reach out. If you have more questions or you don't want to do them in a public forum, find me on LinkedIn and we can connect. Saul, you're on LinkedIn as well. And,
yes. Yep.
And we can all connect there. All right. I'll put that in there one more time. Cool. We have a chatty group here today. I like it. Jude, Robert's typing. Judy was typing. Cool.
And thanks everybody for bearing with me on my first webinar. I appreciate the love. I saw some support in the chat. Appreciate y'all. It was a good time. Looking forward to the next one.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. I hope this gives you some confidence and some ideas and some confidence to really be bold, be brave, be ambitious. Let's make our lives a little easier by leaning into the technology and letting it do a lot of that drudgery work for us. And our beneficiaries and the missions that we're all supporting will definitely thank us for it. So awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jade.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.